Unfortunately, my broadcast was interrupted when I felt like I was getting to the most important subject of the whole video. So I've decided to go ahead and do a part two, and hopefully I can get through this one without being interrupted. And as you know, I was talking about Ukraine versus Russia, how a world war might even start over that. And so what I want to do is go to screen share, and I want to continue my point that I was making in Genesis 49, the blessings upon the sons of Jacob, but what's going to befall them in the last days. A terrible thing is going to happen to Joseph. And I will use this interruption to delve further into what's going to happen to Joseph and how in the end he is going to be saved. All right. So, Genesis 49. As I mentioned before, all the children of Israel are going to come back to Judah because Judah is going to get the land first, and they're going to bow before Judah. Judah will be in charge, and the king will come out of Judah. And as I mentioned, the binding of his foal unto the vine and his ass's coat unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine and clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine. That is about the great war between Judah and Ephraim versus the sons of Greece. Okay. All right. I will get to that in a, let me see. I want to just go ahead and go to that next. Let's see here. That would be Zechariah 9. All right. I think I'll just go stick to King James here. Okay. This great war is when all this stuff is going on in Hadrach and Damascus and everything like that. We just talked about many times. Here we go. Jacob is talking about Zion's coming king. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes unto you. He is just having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass and upon a colt of a foal of an ass. Now, as you see, this is talking about the very last days when this war breaks out. Right here, verse 11. What is going to be happening? He washed his garments in wine and in his clothes in the blood of grapes. This is when blood is going to be spilled. Lots of it. You can read about it in Revelation and in Joel 3 where it talks about, well, Revelation where it talks about thrusting in of the sickle, and so does it in Joel 3. Okay. So this is about a great war right here. So is this. Let's go to verse 22 of Genesis 49. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well whose branches run over the wall. That means great in numbers. The Baal, archers, in this case. Normally it's the false god Baal, meaning Lord. But in this case, it's archers. So we're talking about a great war. Have sorely grieved him. Now let's look up the word ma'ar. Ma'ar. To be bitter. But it's worse than that, folks. And this is what we have to get ready for. It's far worse. They cause a bitter weeping. So something horrifying is going to happen to Joseph in the last days. However, because the enemy is shooting at him, causing him to weep bitterly. When does this happen? I believe it happens in this war here. Because Jehovah says he's going to bend Judah for me, for himself as his bow, and he's going to fill that bow with Ephraim. Who's Ephraim? Ephraim is the heir of Joseph, and raised up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece. Who? The Greeks are the Byzantines today. Who are the Byzantines? The Greek Orthodox, led by Russia. So, just to give you a little history lesson, the Byzantines occupied much of Asia Minor, if not all of it, known as Turkey today, until the Mohammedans came in and drove them out. Where did they go? They went to Russia. That's where they went. So this is going to be a war with Judah and Ephraim on one side and the Byzantines on the other side. Who is shooting at Joseph? The Byzantines, the Greeks, the Russians. With what? Would you venture to take a guess? It's horrifying to think about, isn't it? It should be, because there's going to be bitter weeping in Joseph during this war. However, but his bow stayed strong, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hand of the mighty Jacob. From there, the stone of Israel. From where? From Jerusalem. That's the stone of Israel. Even by Elohim of your father Jacob. And he's going to help you, Joseph. How? How is he going to help Joseph? I'll get to that in just a minute. And by Shaddai, the Almighty. He is the Father who will bless you with blessings from heaven above and blessings from the deep that lies under and blessings of the breast and of the womb. When will this blessing come? This blessing comes when Ephraim leaves the west. That's right. Leaves the west, escapes from the west, and goes back to the stone of Israel, Jerusalem. Now, I will go to Luke 15, in verse 11. And he said, a certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of his goods, of the goods that falls to me. And he divided unto them his living. That's when Judah and the house of Israel parted, was divided. And not many days after that, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country. That was when the 10 tribes of Israel was invaded by Assyria and taken into captivity. And there he wasted his substance with riotous living. Now, this whole bunch of years are going on here, moving along. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Now, I believe, I cannot remember, it was Claudius. That's right. I believe it was Claudius. I believe this might have been the time of Claudius when a great famine came over the world. And Claudius took over what today is Great Britain and Romanized it. Romanized it. And he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. Yes. Became servants, subjects, and slaves of Rome. And you will see it here in just a minute. And that citizen sent him to his fields to feed the swine. So they became the farmers of the Romans, the Europeans. And he would like to have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, but no man would let him. This happened for a long time, until, of course, they were driven to the ends of the earth, which is United States of America. And when he came to himself, so there comes a point in time where he comes to himself. What time is that? That is the time when Israel must be reunited. And he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? So in the very, very last, suddenly there's going to be lack of food once again, like it was in the old days of dark Europe. He says, I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and am no more worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants. Then he arose. This is what Ephraim is going to do. This is what Joseph is going to do. Joseph is going to leave the lands. Why? Because there's no food left. Why? Because the enemy is shooting at him and making him weep bitterly. And he rose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and men no more to be worthy to be called your son. But the father said unto his servant, Bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and the shoes on his feet, and bring here the fatted calf and kill it. Let us eat and make merry, for my son was dead and is alive, and he is lost and is found. And they began to make merry. Now we read the rest of this here, and the rest of this here is when the older son, Judah, comes out of the field and say, what do you do? What's going on here? And there has to be amends made between these two sons, and they will become one. And in the very last, they will fight against their enemies and defeat them. The fatted calf is an example of that. They will get together and they will eat the fatted calf together that Jehovah, our Father in heaven, has killed for them. The fatted calf is the wealth, the spoil of the nations whom they have defeated together. Zechariah 9 and verse 13 says, Judah and Ephraim, the younger son and the older son, will be together again. They will make war against these Byzantines, and together these two become one nation and are made like a sword of a mighty man. And Jehovah will be seen over them, and his arrows shall go forth as lightning, and Jehovah Elohim will blow the trumpet. This will be the time of the blowing of the trumpets, probably the seventh trumpet. And shall go with the whirlwinds of the south. Jehovah of hosts shall defend them. Where? At that great stone, Jerusalem. And they shall devour, yes, the fatted calf. So, what I'm doing right now is warning people, especially in the United States, but around the world, that great hunger is coming. Great bitterness and weeping is coming because of a great war. Prepare yourselves. Some of us might not survive. So prepare yourselves. This could be it. I do not know. But once again, just in case, I label this 6 days to midnight. Tomorrow, I will do another video, hopefully, Jehovah willing, called 5 days to midnight.